What's up, everybody? Anthony here, Empire Music, empiremusic.com. Phone number at the shop, 412-343-5299. I showed you the fretted version of this today, showing you the very, very special and iconic, although not the Icon series version of this, the fretless Pino Palladino Ernie Ball Music Man StingRay. This bass represents a lot because this bass is extremely famous, and Pino, if you're not familiar with Pino Palladino's work, really broke through by playing this instrument. Not this exact thing, but like a late 70s version of this. So kind of the original article. And if you've listened to his amazing work with Gary Newman, David Gilmour, trying to think, the Paul Young stuff, that's really the one for me that did it, a local bass teacher, and also like amazing YouTube personality, Paul Thompson. I remember him turning me on to the Paul Young records when I took some very brief lessons with him when I was young, probably 18 or 19 years old, and didn't really stick with those lessons because I was awful at practicing. I just wanted to go play. But he hipped me to so much great music, and a lot of it was Pino's work with Paul Young, which remains a staple of my listening to this very day. So his amazing fretless work was done on a bass very similar to this, and it's really cool this year to see the Pino Signature line come out. So they do this fretless version and a fretted version of it. Those are staples now of their artist lineup. There's also an Icon version. I think they only made 15 of them, and that is a relic, like exact replica of Pino's fretless bass. So it's really cool to have this in the shop. The fretted one was an absolute blast to play. Obviously a little bit more comfortable to me, being primarily a fretted electric bass player. Unlined fretless. So fretless in general to me is not necessarily a comfort zone. Unlined fretless is even less of a comfort zone. I owned a Tony Franklin Fender P-Bass for a while, unlined fretless, and I tell you, just never put the work in to get comfortable with it. I am a fretted player through and through, so we're gonna keep it really simple in this video. Please be kind to me in the comments. Please be, you don't have to be kind. I don't care if you're kind or not. Please be easy on me in the comment section. I don't know how my intonation's gonna come across playing this unlined beast here, but it sounds great. It's an awesome sounding bass. A lot of what I expected after demoing and actually purchasing one of the fretted versions of this. Have a pretty good understanding of the instrument, kind of what it wants to give. And the fretless version of it is no different, just no frets and no lines, right? Just out there and no, it feels like no man's land even on a fretted instrument to me when I get up high above the 12th fret, which probably isn't the place for us bass players to be anyway. You don't make your money up there. I feel like I'm in no man's land from here to here, actually all the way to here. It's a jarring visual to me, but a great sounding bass. So some of the specs, and I want to go a little deeper than what I did on the fretted version of it, because and I just want to take a second to kind of apologize if I didn't offer a great comparison to some other StingRay models out there. I know a little bit more now, essentially a week or so later, and answering some questions through the YouTube comments, which please leave a comment with any questions or anything that you find in this video that might be helpful, or any questions that I haven't answered. When you guys leave those comments, it helps me, it helps us as a shop, because if there's something we missed, then we take the time to research it. Hopefully we can get you a good answer for it. But in a lot of the comment section from the fretted bass, I was able to kind of think, okay, what did I miss there? What don't I know? And being a newbie, really, I still am, to the Ernie Ball Music Man line, there's some stuff I just don't know. We could talk about Fender, the last 30 years of Fender, I feel like, and we just know it so well, Martin, Taylor. But with the newer lines, like especially with me I try to be very player centric when it comes to my demos and my videos. More than just like someone in a store showing you a bass. That's the goal. I do want to inform you of it. But I'm also a player, so like I want to know this stuff. I want to build these points of reference for my own sake, so I know to take the right instrument to a gig, to a session, expanding my own knowledge base from a selfish perspective, just so I know more as a player, helps me purvey that information out to you. So again, anything that we miss or anything you want to know, and you can always call the shop, 412-343-5299, but feel free to leave a comment. I'll do my best to answer it as upfront and honestly as I can. So some of the specs here on the bass, and finding out that these basses are very similar to the 70s retro StingRays, right? Now there is a lot of similarities with those instruments, but there are some differences here. So let's talk about what's on this bass right now. We have the vintage style pre-Ernie Ball bridge with these individual string dampeners. I think that's cool. They just raise and lower with these thumb screws here. Poplar body. A 2-band active EQ, 9-volt preamp. So not the modern 18-volt, tons of headroom. Can get a little bit brash and a little bit brittle, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I always sound like when I'm saying that, like that's bad. No, there's a time and a place for that type of stuff, but the 9 volt's relatively subtle, which I really like. And now, much conjecture over, I thought these were a boost-only 2-band EQ, and there is no detent position. So everything when you turn it up, you are essentially boosting from off. You know, even if you're cutting, if there is a hard to find middle position on here, it's hard for me to really comprehend where we're starting to boost or we're starting to cut. But the original Music Man was a boost and cut, and it didn't have the detent position. So I still, this probably isn't right, but I still think of everything as a boost, because essentially if you're all the way off and you start turning, you might get to a middle position, which is still going to be more treble and more bass than what you had in the, let's say, off position, only to go to full boost, I guess. So even if it's right or wrong, the more I think about it, everything is a boost, essentially. That makes sense. So even if there is a middle position, even in off, it's off. Everything else has more treble or bass in those 2 bands. And I love a 2-band EQ, regardless if it's boost only, boost and cut, whatever. I just think it's cool. So master volume, treble, and bass. Now, rosewood fretboard, 7 1/4 radius, dark, I think they call it a dark tinted maple neck, which you can really see on there. It has like the orange tint to it. The 3-bolt Pino branded micro tilt adjust heel cap on it. And then here's the little metal compartment strung through the body. That's where the battery goes. 1.686 nut width on it. Asymmetrical neck. That's cool. So what we have going on here on the bass side, which is now down here, that is more of a V shape, and it's a C shape on the treble side. That feels good, although if I didn't read that, I don't know that I would know that's there. And I think that's a good thing. So I think it just ergonomically fits the hand, which is cool. And then bullet adjustment truss rod. So it's really a vintage style late 70s StingRay bass. Now, the retro, from my understanding and doing some little bit of research online, so forgive me if some of this is incorrect. I don't think it is though. The retro 70s StingRay had an ash body. This has a poplar body on it. It also had the raised pole pieces, where this is, or radiused, I think. These are flat pole pieces on it. I always like a flush pole piece. I just do. It's less things for my hand to get less things to get in the way of my hand, or for that to hit. And then the EQ on this. So they put a 500K treble pot in the on the treble potentiometer there. I don't know what's on the retro 70s. I'm assuming it's not that, because they list that as a spec on here. And that is to kind of act as degradation to like what they're recreating with Pino's bass. So, 50 years in existence, or about a little under 27 years in existence. The value of that potentiometer may have degraded down to a 50K, so a little warmer, a little less brightness out of that treble pot on it. And then the neck tint's a little bit different on there. So we have pole pieces, the neck tint, and the addition of the like retrofitting the potentiometers in there. I don't know on the neck. I could not figure out on the neck shape if the original one had that asymmetrical neck shape on it. And then obviously the heel plate on there, probably similar looking. This one just has like the Pino branding and the signature on it. So I think if I missed something on that, we'll flash it up on the screen here. I don't think I did. Oh, and the strings on it. This is an interesting choice here because the fretted came with flat wounds on it. And we generally do associate flat wound strings or a fretless bass with having flat wound strings. This has round wounds on it. Assuming that's what initially came on it, if you go back and listen to those amazing Pino recordings, they sure do sound like round wound strings on it. There's a brightness and a clarity to it that you get on there. I would probably switch over to flats just because I like the feel and the sound on a fretless. And this isn't an ebony board, or it's just a plain rosewood board. So you're not going to see me bending a lot of strings on here, using a ton of vibrato on it. A, ability, and B, I don't want to harm the rosewood on that because that is a softer wood. So you will get some grooves on that. You can buff them out very easy too. But that would be one thing that I might change, and it is still a very light string. I think these are like 38 to 98. God, I could have that totally wrong now. I just looked at it. But it is an interesting choice that they went with the extra light flats on the fretted and then a light round string on the fretless. Nonetheless, it sounds great. So let's dive into some tones here. I have everything cut, and I want to kind of, let's start there for a second. So here's where that EQ, actually, I'm going to just play a little bit first. I'm going to get it to where I liked it, which was bass almost on full, treble just boosted or boosted past 0. I don't really know what that means yet, and I may never. Let's see where this is. Let me just hear this real quick. Give me a little more treble there. So I'm just going to leave that there. So I have, based off of the 0 position on that EQ, so full volume, I have treble turned up, I don't know, a quarter turn, and I have bass almost on full, backed off maybe an eighth of a turn. Cool. Yeah, I like that. I'm just going to start back here. We're going to slowly move my hand up. You're going to hear how dynamic this pickup is, how dynamic this bass is, just based on hand position. As expected, and very similar to my experience playing the fretted bass, these Alnic, I forgot to say that too. It's an Alnic 05 magnet, and the same as the fretted. The difference there, I believe the original, that retro 70s has an Alnico in it, so kind of the same pickup minus the pole piece difference on that. But the modern Stingrays typically have a neodymium magnet in it. That's a big difference. So neodymium's like super bright, aggressive top end, upper mid range. Alnico 5, Alnico in general, I almost don't care what the value is after that, because they do Alnico 1 through 5, but to best of my knowledge. All of that has varying degrees of output and warmth, right? Where you get warmer, almost too warm down in a 1 or a 2, and depending on the bass and the usage of it. But an Alnico 3 to 5 to me, like, always gives a really nice vintage leaning kind of character, but with enough modern punch for the modern player. So having Alnico 5 in that is really nice. So you can kind of hear, just moving our hand around, even playing fretless, we really start to flirt with the upright-ish. I hate even using that term. I think it's like overused when attacking up here. But it sounds really good, and it's very warm and very full, which I like. Now I do have some bass boosted considerably on here. Gotta throw in like a sliding harmonic. I'm so bad at it though, it's like embarrassing. Honestly, I feel embarrassed playing an unlined fretless on camera here. I've been talking about it all week, knowing this was arriving, and all day today I was like procrastinating getting into this chair just because I knew I had to do this. But it's a lot of fun now that I'm sitting there. And again, forgive me for any level of discomfort that can be shown out there, or felt or heard out there. So now let's get into this EQ, right? Because this is like the big thing. So everything off, volume on full, these knobs at 0. And I'm gonna show you what I mean. That this is probably the wrong way to sell a bass, but wouldn't be the first time I've said something like this on camera to live on in infamy forever on YouTube. Whether it's boost and cut and there is a middle position, I don't care. Everything past 0 to me is essentially some form of boost. So let's call this 0, and these are all off. Sounds thin, right? So there is some frequencies being cut, but like, we're gonna start just rolling bass in, right? Let's go like an eighth of a turn. Still sounds like, I guess, cut, but more than what was there at 0. Another eighth of a turn. Still more than 0. So we are still boosting from what was there at 0. Now let's feel what it's like at half-ish, right? Trying to like pay attention to that knob. So here's halfway up. I can't tell you if that's essentially flat, right? It's impossible to tell. So in my mind, it just makes sense. Think of it as 0 through 10. And then here's 10. We'll start, and then here's 10 on the treble. Actually, let's just go slow again on treble. Eighth of a turn. Still sounds good. I mean, I can roll with that all the way off. Let's go half. Let's try and find half. Ah. Still sounds really good. Now here's full on the treble. that's the only time to me that it sounds, to me, not good. That's too bright for me. But almost any, here's 3/4. Still sounds good. That's probably, to me, I could roll bass on full. Now again, we have thinner strings on here. I think that's playing a factor on that. If we had 45 to 105s on this, that bass might get a little bit out of control. Maybe. 9-volt preamp though. It's not like we have so much headroom on that. But like bass on full and treble all the way off. Treble halfway. That's a pleasing amount of bite. All the way on. That's where it becomes, again, to my ears, my preference, a little bit unnatural sounding. But I'm gonna roll bass off just a touch and get that back to where I kind of like the treble, which is just gonna be about 25% from zero. Maybe we're still cutting some treble. Maybe we're boosting some treble. Who really knows? Someone in the comment section's gonna know. It's a beautiful sounding bass. It's a beautiful looking bass. It's very, I think the takeaway from this, and the fretted version is like this too, it's musical. And if that's the carryover to the Pino name, that makes a lot of sense, because everything Pino's ever played, I don't care if it's from the D'Angelo stuff, which to me is a holy grail of bass playing, to the things that he played with, yes, 9 Inch Nails. Yes, Pino played with 9 Inch Nails. All the way back to Gary Newman and the Paul Young stuff. It's always so musical. And like, I think not even Dark Horse stuff, the newest Pino stuff is like the Blake Mills, Sam Gendel, Pino stuff. That stuff is outrageous. And there is some fretless work on that, I do believe. But nonetheless, it's always so musical. So it makes sense that the versions of this Ernie Ball Music Man StingRay, Pino Palladino Artist Series just sounds musical in really every way that you use it. I always would give the advice to any player out there: get the tool, figure out top and bottom what it can give you, and then utilize that to the best of its ability. Try not to fit an instrument into a role that it doesn't want to be in, right? So if like something's calling for the StingRay sound, grab that. Don't try and force a P bass into that, and vice versa. It's nice to have these palettes or these colors available in your palette. But they are remarkably versatile instruments, I'm finding, from the latest iteration of the StingRay all the way back to this like more retro styled thing. Remarkably versatile for a single pickup all the way back at the bridge. You can pull a lot of interesting sounds out of it with a ton of musicality, cut, and clarity. It's very nice. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave a comment. Happy to discuss there. You can also just call me directly at the shop, 412-343-5299. You can email me directly. It's anthony@empiremusic.com. So one more time, the Ernie Ball Music Man StingRay Pino Palladino Artist Series. This is the unlined fretless version. It's also a fretted version. Both are amazing. Both are in stock at the time of filming this here at Empire Music, and you can see our entire inventory online at empiremusic.com. Thanks for watching.